There are moments in life when everything splits, before and after, and no matter how much you try to pretend otherwise, you can't go back. Mine happened on a Thursday night with an empty stomach, too much beer, and a stupid amount of feelings I'd been pushing down for years. It started like any other hangout. Nothing special, just me and Jordan, my best friend since high school, sitting on his balcony talking shit about work and drinking like we were still in college. He'd just broken up with his girlfriend, again, and I'd just gotten passed over for a promotion I actually thought I had in the bag. Misery loves company, so we leaned into it hard. Jordan was always good at pretending everything was fine. He joked, made fun of the office politics, waved off the breakup like it was a paper cut instead of something deeper. That I could see it, the tightness in his jaw, the way his laugh didn't hit right. And me? I was already 3 beers in before we even ordered takeout. So by the time we were halfway through a bottle of bourbon, I was in that dangerous emotional territory where the line between don't say it and fuck it, say it starts to blur. We were sitting on old patio chairs that creaked every time we shifted. The city buzzed quietly beneath us. His dog, Moose, was curled up at our feet. It was warm out, that weird kind of spring night where the air still smells like winter. But your skin doesn't mind the chill. Jordan leaned his head back and sighed. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just hardwired wrong, you know? I turned to look at him, and he glanced over. The light from the kitchen behind him hit his face in this soft, golden way, and it hit me how unfair it was that someone could look like that and not know how much they meant to the person sitting across from them. And I said it, out loud. I love you. He blinked. What? I immediately regretted it. I wanted to swallow it back, pretend I said something else, anything else, but the alcohol had already lit the match, and the room was filling with smoke. I love you, I repeated, slower this time. Not like friendship love. I'm in love with you. I expected the silence that followed, the long pause, the way his lips parted like he wanted to say something but couldn't figure out where to start. I knew that pause. I'd imagined it in 100 different ways. Most of them didn't end well. But then he did something I didn't expect. He laughed. Not a mocking laugh. Not mean. Just surprised. Soft. And then he leaned forward, elbows on his knees, looking at me like he was about to change my life. Okay, he said. Then I guess I should tell you something too. I sat still, breath caught in my chest. He looked nervous. Actually nervous, which was rare for him. I've been sleeping with guys for over a year. No one knows. Not even my ex. I kept telling myself it was just a phase or an experiment or something. But it's not. And I haven't told anyone because, hell, I didn't know how. The air between us thickened. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. I've been in love with you for years, he said. But I thought if I said anything, I'd ruin the one thing I couldn't afford to lose. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even move. I'd spent years holding back this thing in my chest, convinced it would crush me if I let it out. And now he was holding it too, just as terrified, just as tangled up. Why didn't you say anything? I finally asked, my voice hoarse. Same reason you didn't, he said quietly. And just like that, it all cracked open. He said it like it wasn't the most important sentence I'd ever heard. Same reason you didn't. Simple, honest. It just hung in the air, weightless and massive at the same time. I sat back in my chair, staring out over the city like the buildings might offer some sort of answer. They didn't. Just lights in the dark and a slight breeze that felt too cold all of a sudden. The silence stretched between us. It wasn't awkward. Not yet. It was tender. Careful. Like neither of us wanted to move too fast in case we scared it all away. He finally broke it. I didn't think you'd ever feel the same way, Jordan said. You were always so put together, like you knew exactly who you were. I didn't even know what I wanted until, hell, maybe 2 years ago? I looked over at him. His face was unreadable. The only thing moving was the slight twitch in his thumb as it tapped against the side of his beer can. I thought you were straight, I said, and it sounded stupid the second it left my mouth. He snorted softly. Yeah, so did I. That made me smile, even if it felt a little shaky. He looked up at me, finally meeting my eyes. It wasn't just random chillin', by the way. I wasn't experimenting with strangers. I got close with a guy last summer. My stomach tightened. Oh, I said. I didn't mean for it to sound jealous. But it did. Jordan raised an eyebrow. Relax, it ended. Before it really started, honestly. He wanted something serious, and he sighed. I kept thinking about you, wondering if I was just trying to replace something I hadn't dealt with. I leaned forward, resting my arms on my knees. My heart was pounding like I'd run up 10 flights of stairs. This is a lot, I said. I know, he said quickly. You don't have to say anything. I'm not expecting. No, I cut in. I'm glad you said it. I'm just overwhelmed. Not in a bad way. He nodded, and I could see the tension in his shoulders ease slightly. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw it. All the fear, all the hope, all the history between us compacted into this one moment. This one night. I'd spent years loving him from the sidelines, always careful, always quiet. Every time he brought a girl around, I smiled and asked polite questions. Every time he broke up with someone, I was the one who sat next to him on the couch, pouring drinks and making him laugh. Never once did I say what I really wanted. But now the dam was broken. Okay, I said finally. What does this mean for us? He exhaled, like he'd been holding his breath. I don't know, he said, but I don't want to pretend anymore. Not if there's a chance this could be real. My throat went tight. You sure? I asked. Because if we go down this road, there's no undoing it. I don't want to be some secret. I don't want to lose you. He looked right at me. I don't want to lose you either. It wasn't a declaration. It wasn't a dramatic promise. It was real. And that's what made it hit harder than anything else ever could. Then he stood up, slow and cautious, and stepped toward me. His eyes searched my face, and I didn't move. I couldn't. He knelt slightly, just enough so we were eye level, and his hand hovered near mine, close, but not quite touching. Can I kiss you? He asked, voice low. I blinked. That wasn't something I'd ever expected to hear from Jordan. But I didn't hesitate. Yeah, I said, you can. His hand brushed over mine, and then he leaned in. It wasn't some fireworks and choir kind of kiss. It wasn't even neat. Our noses bumped, and I could taste the whiskey on his breath. But it was slow. Sure, and so full of everything we hadn't said for years that it made my head spin. When he pulled back, he didn't let go of my hand. Okay, he said, voice slightly hoarse. Now what? I laughed, and it came out nervous. I guess now we figure it out. He nodded. Together? I squeezed his hand. Yeah, together. But even as we smiled at each other, that warmth building between us again, I could feel something lingering behind his eyes. Something unspoken. There was more. He had told me something huge, but it wasn't everything. And I didn't know it yet, but the next thing he said would flip my world in a whole new way. We didn't sleep that night, not in the romantic sense. Not in the let's climb into bed and start our new life together way. No. We sat on the floor of Jordan's tiny balcony until the city started to turn blue and silver with early morning light. His dog snored beside us. The bourbon bottle sat forgotten on the table, and we just talked. It was the kind of conversation you only have once. The kind where nothing is off limits because everything's already out in the open. We retraced years. Old flings, close calls, late-night thoughts we'd buried under sarcasm and safe silences. He told me about the first time he kissed a guy. Senior year of college. Some party. A guy named Nate. I don't think I even liked him, he admitted. I just needed to know. And when it happened, it felt like this floodgate opened. But I was too scared to do anything with it. He glanced at me. I think it was always you. That should have made me melt. And part of me did. But I also felt something else building. A sense that he wasn't done. That he was still holding something back. There were these tiny hesitations in the way he spoke, like he was editing before he let the words out. You keep looking at me like you're waiting for a shoe to drop, I said. He smiled, but it was weak. That obvious? You can tell me anything, you know. He went quiet for a while, running his hand over Moose's ears. Then he said, there's one more thing. I felt it. The shift. That pause before something big. I haven't told anyone this, he said. Eyes fixed on the skyline. Not even my brother. Not my parents. No one. I nodded slowly, staying quiet, letting him have the space to say whatever he needed to say. Jordan sat up straighter. His fingers tapped against the metal armrest, nervous. I was seeing someone, actually seeing him, not just a closeness. His name was Matt. It was kind of serious. I tried not to react, but I could feel the tightness coil in my chest again. I pushed it down. "Okay," I said. "I met him through work," Jordan went on. "He was a project manager at one of the other firms we collaborated with. At first, it was just drinks, Casual. But it got more real. He was the first guy that first ever told I wasn't straight. I waited. I could feel it wasn't the end." Jordan's jaw tightened, like he was trying to push through something hard. And then one night, he told me he was married. That hit harder than I expected. "He'd been lying to me for almost 6 months," Jordan said. "Said they were separated. Said it was complicated. But he was still living with his wife. Still sleeping in the same bed. I didn't know until she called me." "Holy shit," I whispered. "Yeah." He exhaled, his shoulders sagging. It messed me up more than I wanted to admit. I felt stupid, dirty, like I was just this secret, a distraction, not real. I didn't know what to say, so I just reached over and placed my hand on his. He didn't move, just looked down at our hands. "I wanted to tell you back then," he said, "when it all blew up, but I couldn't. I didn't want you to see me like that." "Like what?" he shrugged. "Weak, gullible, pathetic." I shook my head. "You're not any of those things." "I know that now, but back then—" He trailed off. We sat with that for a bit. The city was waking up. Cars started humming below us. The air had that strange in-between feeling, like the night wasn't quite over, but the day hadn't started either. "I think that's part of why I never said anything to you," Jordan admitted. "I didn't want you to think I was still messed up from it." "Are you?" I asked. He looked over at me, honest and tired. "Some days, and that I understood, because even if I hadn't been in something that intense, I knew what it felt like to carry that weight, to question your worth because someone else treated you like an option." I nodded. "Thanks for telling me. You're not freaked out?" "No, but I am mad for you." He smiled again, smaller but more real this time. "I just didn't want to bring that mess into whatever this is between us." "This," I said carefully, "isn't going to be perfect, but I'd rather try and figure it out with you than keep pretending I'm okay, being just your friend." He looked at me like I was the only person in the world. "I've wanted to hear you say that for years. And even though we hadn't kissed again, even though we didn't crawl into bed together or say anything official, it felt like something real had started. Something bigger than all the silence that came before it. The next few days felt like walking a tightrope. Not in a bad way, but in the kind of way where everything suddenly mattered a little more. The way we looked at each other. The way we sat closer on the couch without really saying anything about it. The small touches that used to feel like nothing. An elbow against mine, a hand brushing my back, suddenly felt loaded. We didn't talk about the kiss. We didn't talk about the Me Too or the hours on the balcony, or even the story about Matt. We just existed in this quiet, cautious space where things were different but not defined. A soft, blurry middle ground. And for the first time in a long time, I felt okay not rushing to figure it out. We went back to our routines, work, texts, hanging out like we always did. But now there was this thread between us, pulling tighter every time our eyes met and lingered just a second too long. Then came Saturday. I hadn't planned to go over to Jordan's, but he texted mid-morning. "Moose threw up on the rug. I need emotional support." So I showed up an hour later with a six-pack and a shitty frozen pizza, like any good best friend / who knows what the hell we are would. He looked tired but happy to see me. His hair was still damp from a shower, and he was wearing this old college hoodie I always used to steal when I crashed at his place back in the day. I almost made a joke about it. But I didn't. We talked, ate, drank, watched something dumb on Netflix. It felt easy again, comfortable in the way that only years of history can make something feel. But under all of that, I could feel the unspoken stuff swirling around us, just waiting for the right moment to rise to the surface. And it came. Somewhere between episode 3 and 4 of a show we weren't even paying attention to, Jordan muted the TV and turned toward me. "I've been thinking," he said. I sat up a little straighter, heart suddenly awake. "Yeah?" He looked nervous again. That same tightness around his mouth I'd seen the night on the balcony. "I don't want to do the in-between thing." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "This half-stuck place we're in, where we don't talk about the kiss or what we want or if we're even doing this. I want to know what we are, or at least what you want us to be." I swallowed hard. "I've been wondering the same thing," I said, but I didn't want to push. "I get it," he said quietly, "but I think I need something real, and I want that with you, if you do." I looked at him, really looked, and felt that familiar ache in my chest. That same feeling I'd had every time I watched him flirt with a girl at a party. Every time I said nothing when he vented about dating. Every time I held my breath and kept my feelings buried because I thought I didn't have the right to hope. And now he was sitting across from me, waiting for a sign that it wasn't just one-sided. "I want that too," I said. "But we have to be honest, like brutally honest." "About everything," he nodded. "No more secrets." We sat in that quiet for a while, letting it settle. Then I asked, "Are you ready for people to know?" He didn't answer right away. "That's the part I'm still figuring out," he admitted. "But I don't want to hide this. Not from the people who matter." I exhaled slowly, nodding. Okay. Yeah. I'm not in a rush. But I'm not afraid of this anymore." He smiled then, really smiled. And when he leaned over and kissed me, soft, careful, no alcohol fog this time, it felt like something solid clicking into place. No more pretending. No more sidestepping. When he pulled back, he pressed his forehead against mine. "You know this is going to change everything, right?" he whispered. I nodded. "I'm counting on it." We didn't label it right away. There were no titles exchanged, no "so are we boyfriends now" moment. That wasn't how we worked. We just started doing more of the things we were already doing, but with the volume turned up a notch. The touches lasted longer. The silences between us weren't empty anymore. They were full of something new, something we hadn't dared let ourselves feel before. Still, the outside world hadn't caught up. We didn't tell anyone. Not yet. It wasn't because we were ashamed. At least, not for me. I would have shouted it from the rooftops if I thought he was ready. But I could tell he wasn't. Not quite. There were moments, like when we were brushing shoulders in the kitchen, or when his fingers laced through mine under the blanket on the couch, where he'd pull away the second we heard a phone buzz or footsteps in the hallway. It wasn't rejection. I knew that. It was fear. Muscle memory. Years of living in a version of himself that didn't have room for this. I got it. I really did. But part of me still ached every time he chose safety over us. That tension hit its peak 2 weeks later at his brother's birthday party. It was a small get-together, just family and a few close friends. Jordan invited me without hesitation. I'd been to plenty of these before. I was practically a second son to his mom anyway. But this time, something was different. This time, I wasn't just Jordan's best friend. I was the person he kissed when the lights were off. The person who knew how his voice cracked when he said, quote, "I think I'm falling for you," after I stayed the night for the first time without sleeping on the couch. So when I walked into that backyard full of people who had no idea, I felt like I was holding a secret so big it might leak out of my pores. I watched him play the part, laughing with his cousins, tossing a football with his nephew, giving his mom a kiss on the cheek like everything was the same as it ever was. And I stood there with a paper plate in my hand, wondering where I fit now. The moment that broke me was small. I reached for a drink from the cooler at the same time he did. Our hands brushed. We made eye contact. For half a second, I thought he was going to smile, maybe even say something quiet, something just for me. Instead, he looked away. Just like that, like nothing had passed between us. I don't know why it hit so hard. Maybe it was the contrast. Maybe it was the way he lit up around everyone else and dimmed the second it was about me. But by the time cake was served, I was sitting alone at the edge of the porch, staring at a melting cup of ice cream and trying to swallow the lump in my throat. He found me a few minutes later. "Hey," he said gently, crouching down next to me. Hey, you okay? I nodded, but I didn't mean it. He sat beside me, arms resting on his knees. He didn't touch me, just looked out at the yard like he didn't know what to say. I saw your face, I said quietly, when I touched your hand. He winced. I didn't mean… I know, I cut in. You're not ready. He exhaled, frustrated, not at me, but at himself. I hate that it's still this hard, he admitted. It's not you. It's not even them. It's me. I've spent so long pretending this part of me didn't exist. I don't know how to stop acting like I have to hide it. I looked at him, at the man I'd loved for years, the one who was finally here with me, but still halfway stuck in the dark. I don't need you to be perfect, Jordan, I said, but I need you to be honest. If this is too much, I need to know. He turned to me, eyes raw and wide. No God? No, you're not too much. This is the realest thing I've ever had. And that scares the shit out of me. I nodded slowly. Then let it scare you. But don't shut me out. He reached for my hand under the edge of the bench where no one could see and squeezed. I won't, he whispered. I promise. It wasn't a grand gesture. It wasn't a coming out speech in front of his entire family. But it was something. A step. And right then, that was enough. Things shifted after the party. Not in a dramatic way. There was no explosion, no confrontation, but something subtle cracked open between us. The pressure that had been building, that tension between who we were in private and who we pretended to be in public, it didn't vanish, but it stopped growing. Jordan had looked me in the eye, admitted his fear, and still chose to reach for me. That meant something. It was the first time I realized that being with him might mean moving forward at two different paces. I couldn't yank him out of the closet any more than he could force me to slow down how deeply I already felt about us. We were going to have to meet in the middle, over and over again. And we did. He started staying over at my place more often. At first, it was the same old routine. Game nights, beers, laughing too hard at dumb YouTube videos. But now, we shared a bed. We brushed teeth side by side. He kept an extra hoodie in my closet, and when he came home late from work, I had a habit of ordering his favorite takeout without asking. It was domestic in a way that made me ache. Quietly wonderful, but also fragile, because the outside world hadn't caught up. At work, Jordan was still just one of the guys. At family dinners, I was still the best friend, and while I tried not to let it get to me, there were moments where the gap between public and private felt like a canyon. The worst moment came on a Sunday afternoon when we ran into an old friend from college at a coffee shop. Her name was Erica. We hadn't seen her in years, but she was the kind of person you couldn't forget. Bright, bubbly, always wearing clothes that made her look like she was on her way to an indie movie premiere. We were standing in line when she turned and spotted us. "Jordan! Oh my God!" He froze for a second, then smiled and stepped forward to hug her. They talked for a bit, catching up in that casual way people do when they don't expect to run into each other. Then she looked at me and grinned. "Still attached at the hip, huh?" she said, nudging Jordan playfully. "You guys ever end up getting together like everyone thought you would?" It was the kind of teasing comment that didn't need an answer. But it hung there, waiting. I looked at Jordan. He laughed. Light, deflecting. "Nah," he said. "Still just best friends." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. Erica kept talking, unaware of the small detonation that had just gone off inside me. We chatted for another few minutes, and then she waved goodbye, promising we should all get drinks sometime. When she walked out, I turned to Jordan. My voice came out low. "Still just best friends, huh?" He looked guilty. "I didn't mean… No. I get it," I said quickly. Too quickly. "You weren't ready. I shouldn't have expected anything else." "Hey," he said, stepping closer. "That's not what I meant. I panicked. I didn't know how to say it. Not in front of her. Not like that." I didn't pull away, but I didn't move closer either. "It's not about Erica," I said. "It's that every time we're out in the world, I disappear." He flinched. Like the words hit him somewhere deep. "I'm sorry," he said. "You don't deserve that." I nodded. "I know." He looked like he wanted to say more, but we were in a coffee shop. When my name was being called for a latte, I suddenly didn't want. That night, I didn't say much. I let him stay over. We shared the bed. But when his arm curled around my waist, I stared at the ceiling for a long time, wondering if this was how it would always be. Him afraid. Me pretending I didn't mind. But the next morning, everything changed. He woke up before me. I could hear him in the kitchen, clinking mugs and feeding Moose. When I got up and padded out, eyes half shut, he looked over at me from the stove. "I called my mom," he said. I blinked. "What?" He turned off the burner and wiped his hands on a dish towel. "I told her," he said, voice steady. "About you. About us." My heart thudded so hard I could feel it in my ears. "She took it better than I thought," he said, cried a little, asked if I was sure. "But she told me she loved me, and that she was happy I wasn't alone." I didn't know what to say. I just stared. "I'm tired of hiding you," he added. "I'm done pretending. I want you in my life the way you deserve to be." I crossed the kitchen in 3 steps and wrapped my arms around him before he could finish his sentence. He held me like he meant it, like we'd finally found the other side of that canyon. Jordan telling his mom was the turning point. After that, things didn't exactly become easy, but they became real. We weren't hiding anymore, not from the people who mattered. His mom started inviting me to dinner like she always had, but now she set out an extra plate without asking, and when we left, she hugged me with both arms instead of one. She didn't say anything different, but her eyes did. They were softer, warmer, like she saw me now, not just as Jordan's best friend, but as the person who made him happy. We told my sister a few days later. She took one look at the way Jordan held my hand on the walk up to her apartment and said, "It's about damn time," before hugging us both and handing us beers. I didn't cry, but I wanted to. Little by little, we were building something. Not a relationship that looked perfect from the outside, but something stronger. One where we didn't have to flinch every time someone asked if we were dating. The first time Jordan introduced me as his boyfriend was at a friend's birthday brunch downtown. It was casual, offhanded. He didn't even look at me when he said it. "Hey, this is my boyfriend," just like that. Like it was nothing, like it wasn't a damn miracle. I didn't say anything in the moment, just smiled and shook hands and played it cool. But on the ride home, I reached over and squeezed his knee gently. He didn't say anything either. He just placed his hand over mine and left it there until we got to my apartment. We were good. Better than good, honestly. And then came the curveball. One night, after dinner and an embarrassing loss at Mario Kart, Jordan sat on the edge of my bed and said, "I got offered a job." I was in the middle of brushing my teeth. I leaned out of the bathroom. "Wait, what kind of job?" "Project manager, bigger firm, more money, better benefits." I smiled. "That's great. When'd you apply?" "I didn't," he said. "They reached out. Got my name from a guy the first worked with a while back." "That's amazing, man," I said, walking back into the room. "Where is it?" He looked up at me. And I knew. "Chicago?" The word hung there. Thick. Final. My smile faded. "Wow." "Yeah," he said, voice soft. "It's a great opportunity." I nodded. Slowly. "So, are you taking it?" "I don't know," he said. I told them I needed a few days. I sat beside him, my chest already tightening. "What does this mean for us?" I asked. He turned to me, eyes searching mine. "I don't want to lose you," he said. "I'm not saying I'm going, but I can't lie and say I'm not thinking about it." I nodded, swallowed, tried to stay calm. "I mean, we could do long distance," I said. "People do it." He winced. "Do you want to?" I didn't answer, because the truth was, I didn't know. I didn't want to hold him back. But the idea of starting something just to put miles between us, it felt like standing at the edge of another canyon. "Maybe," I said eventually, "if it's you, I'd try." He exhaled and leaned against me, his shoulder pressing into mine. "I don't want to go," he said, "but I also don't want to regret not taking this chance." And just like that, we were back in the unknown. But this time, we weren't hiding in it. We were facing it, together, even if we didn't know what came next. Jordan didn't take the job right away. He sat with it for days, the offer email flagged in his inbox, blinking like a slow metronome. I gave him space. I told myself I wouldn't pressure him. But that didn't stop my stomach from nodding every time I glanced at his laptop screen and saw the words Chicago Opportunity. Follow-up? Staring back at us. We tried to act normal. We still had our routines. Lazy mornings, shared coffees, my cat and his dog finally learning to tolerate each other like two reluctant roommates. But under it all was this quiet countdown. This feeling like we were waiting for a door to open, knowing one of us might have to walk through it alone. The night before the deadline, he asked me to go for a walk. It was chilly, late fall starting to bite through hoodie weather, but we walked anyway. No destination, just laps around the block, crunching leaves underfoot, our hands brushing now and then but not quite linking. I talked to my mom about it, he said finally. I looked at him. She asked me what I wanted, not what would look good on paper, not what sounded impressive. Just what I wanted. And? I asked. He stopped walking, turned toward me. I want you, he said. And I swear, for a second, everything else went quiet. I want to wake up in the same city as you. I want to keep figuring this out with you. I don't want a job title more than I want a life that actually feels like mine. My throat tightened. Jordan, he stepped closer. I'm not saying I'll never leave this city, but not like this. Not now. Not when I just got brave enough to stop lying to myself. I didn't realize I'd been holding my breath until I let it out. You sure? I'm sure, he said. I've spent my whole life chasing what I thought I was supposed to want. This is the first time something feels right. I smiled, and it wasn't just relief. It was something deeper, like we'd finally earned this. After years of silence, side glances, and holding back, we were finally here. Chosen. Not by default, but deliberately. That night, back in bed, he wrapped his arm around me and whispered, I still don't know how we got here. I laughed softly. You mean how we went from best friends to, well, this? He nodded, his breath warm on the back of my neck. I think it was always heading this way, I said. We just didn't have the language for it. We stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in quiet and warmth. In the weeks that followed, things kept unfolding. Jordan started telling more people. Co-workers, his brother, even Erica, who sent us a voice memo saying, I knew IT, followed by 5 rainbow emojis. We went public in small ways, a tagged photo here, a hand held there, a sleepy morning selfie that somehow became our friend's most liked post of the month. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't even fast, but it was ours. And the funniest part? The night I told him I loved him, the night I thought I'd ruined everything, that was the beginning of something I never could have predicted. Because when I cracked open my chest and handed him the truth, I thought I was risking our friendship. Instead, he gave me something even bigger.